Hi there, welcome to my YouTube video. This particular video is going to be about how to fix mistakes in brioche knitting. I'm going to show how to place the stitches back on the needle when your needle accidentally or purposely comes out, how to fix a stitch that was slipped across the front instead of over the top, and then how to change a decrease. This one is leaning to the left and we really wanted it to lean to the right, so I'm going to show how to make it change and lean to the right. This is in association with a Colorworks scarf tutorial. I have a pattern for this on Ravelry, and it covers double knitting, brioche, stranded knitting, intarsia, mosaic, and slip stitch knitting. So it's all the different types of color work, how to work them, and how to fix mistakes. I'll have a link to that pattern down in the description, so if you're interested in working that, you can get it. So let me increase this to 2 times. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to pull the stitches off the needle and then put them back on. We need to be able to read our stitches, as always, and in brioche we need to know which color was last worked. And we can tell because the majority of the stitches on here are the light color, so we know the light color was just worked and the dark color was worked previous to that. This is just our border stitches here, but here's the brioche here, so we have a slip-on yarn over, a purl brioche, slip-on yarn over, purl, slip-on yarn over, etc. So each of the blue stitches on here has an associated yarn over the top of it. So we don't want to lose those when we take the needle out. So here we go. We're taking the needle out, and you can see that the stitches push away from each other because they're knits and purls, and that can create some confusion. Let's make this even bigger. So when we go to pick them up, these are just the edge stitches here. So we're going to pick these up. We know that the blue has to have its yarn over with it, so we're going to pick that up. Then we're going to pick up the purl, the blue with its yarn over, the purl, the blue with its yarn over, without splitting the stitches, the blue with its yarn over, that was a purl, blue with its yarn over. Sometimes you can change the stitch mount. If you can't get it up correct, get it up however you can, and then you can go back and adjust the stitch mount. So we've got them all back on here. So now let's correct this one right here. So it's good to have a little stitch marker handy, or anything, a tapestry needle with some yarn on it, to hold these stitches once we release them. This particular yarn is wool, and it pretty much stays where I leave it, so they aren't going to just zip out. But if you feel insecure, once you release the stitches, you can put them on that stitch marker if you want. So we're going to move over to that column. We're just going to slide these stitches over to another needle. Sometimes the mistakes are on one side of the fabric and sometimes on the other, but we're just going to work with one side. You don't have to work with both sides at the same time. One side at a time is good. So here we are. And that stitch has its yarn over. We're going to leave the yarn over on this needle. We're just going to drop the stitch. Then I'm going to use my little Susan Bates handy tool, and we're going to take the knit stitches out. You don't mess with the yarn overs, just the knit stitches. Do you see how easy they come out? And their yarn overs are still behind them. Don't take the yarn overs out. And if you feel insecure with these just hanging here, at this point, you can take them and just slip your stitch marker through them to make sure you don't lose them. Now this is the one that we need to fix. The yarn over went in the front instead of over the top. So all we have to do is move that yarn over it. Right there, just like that. That's all we have to do. Now we can take the stitch marker out, or if I were doing this without teaching it, I would have just left the stitch marker out because they really aren't going anywhere. But if you're working with a slippery, more slippery yarn, yes, you would need to worry about. Put your hook through, pull the next stitch through. Let's see, this one needs to be below here. It lost its yarn over. Okay, pull this one through. Each blue needs to have its yarn over, remember. Then this one. If you look at these from the side, you can see they're sticking forward. They're not slipping back into the yarn. And this one. And then this one's going to go back up on the needle. So now we've fixed that problem. See that? Let's look at the other side. Other side looks good. We didn't mess with that. Now we're going to move over and we're going to fix this problem right here. So we're going to just continue sliding our stitches over to that column. It's right here. So we're going to keep the yarn over on the right needle. And now we're going to use our handy tool and we're going to flip these off again. Flip them off the stitch. See, I'm just sliding them over. You don't want to really pull on anything. You're just unhooking them from the stitch below. Being gentle. Now we're down to our problem. Take this one off. We'll put all these others back on our little stitch holder. Okay, so this is a complex problem, but it is fixable. So what we've got to do is undo this decrease. And we know that each one of these has its yarn over associated with it. So this is the yarn over that's associated with this stitch. This is the yarn over that's associated with this stitch. So the first we're going to take these off. And we just have this stitch remaining. Then we're going to take these off. And there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to slip it through this one first. We have to use the yarn over too. And pull that stitch through here. So this is the stitch and its yarn over. This has to come through both. And then we've got to grab this stitch and its yarn over and go through this way. Grab that and pull it through. And now we have a right leaning decrease. And then we're just going to ladder up. And we'll look at those again. See, they just stick out to the side. Can you see them? You could even just use the side like this, fold it in half, and go through this, and pull them through one at a time. I have a group on Ravelry. It's called Knitting with Suzanne Bryan, and in that group we are doing a lot of learning. If you like to learn about knitting, you can join us in that group. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. And there's its yarn over. So now we've fixed that and it's going in the opposite direction. You see that? So if you like to learn and you like my teaching techniques, we do a lot of learning in that group. I would go ahead and join us. I've got links in this video to the other brioche techniques that I've discussed for this knit along. And I'd love if you would subscribe to my channel, share my videos with your friends, and come back and watch some more. Happy knitting!